how did you get into solar? And what do you think the benefits are of it? Because this land I just bought, I'm wanting to put solar on.
Right.
I've got this idea. I'm a lead AP. It's an exam or a test for new home. It used to be just big commercial buildings, but it's building green, building efficient, building sustainability into the buildings. Solar is something I've always been interested in. I've got an idea in my head of building a house. It's on well water.
Yep.
It's on solar power.
Resilient. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's off the grid. I don't need to be plugged into anything.
Yep.
So I've got that idea, and that is something that I want to do. What got you into solar? Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. How did you find your first job in the trades or trades related? Either way.
I mean, for me, growing up in high school, I started to kind of, instead of doing sports junior year, I started to work. Now, that could be just at a pizza place, a tractor supply company, or just a local job just to make some money so I could get that first car. But then I started to be introduced to concrete work. So I started to jump in and tie some rod at a massive local pad for dry fertilizer right next to a river. So that kind of started to introduce me to the trades, this physical labor, but also skilled labor, right? Having to have that knowledge. So you're not only working hard, but you're working smart and making the most of your time and getting the job done fairly efficiently. So that was where I started to open my eyes to what is possible, whether I go to college or if I take a path and go directly into the trades. And it should be stated, my dad was also a lineman. So he spent about 30 years out, keeping the lights on for everybody in our area for a local co-op.
Now you starting out in concrete, is that really fair? Because that's one of the hardest trades jobs there is.
Well, so I ended up going to college, right? So concrete,
okay.
Yeah.
Did you know at the time that you started that you were probably going to college?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that cemented, literally,
yeah, there you go.
Pun intended, in my mind, like, okay, I respected that job deeply. I was like, man, these guys, this is no joke in terms of on your body and out in the elements. And I don't think anything was less than 50 pounds on that job site, so you're going through it. Now, at the same time, I saw the opportunity. So because you saw some that did it right and some that did it wrong, if you took that right path, there was no shortage of work for you for your entire career. So I always respected it, but I ended up going the kind of college path and getting some degrees, and go into kind of more of a standard corporate America job before I do what I do now. So
it doesn't take very long in concrete to figure out, like, I don't want to do this forever. My little brother was the same way. I got him a job with me in the summer doing plumbing. It was just a few weeks in, he told Dad, look, I'm going to college. Trust me, I am going to college. So I do. I completely get that. And I like what you said about realizing, look, the people who work really good and do things right, there's never a shortage of work for them. How, as a young kid, did you pick that up, that, look, the guys that are doing it right are doing great, the guys that aren't?
I mean, you could see some shortcuts being taken, right? That gives you maybe a benefit that day. Maybe you get off a little early, you don't have to pick up the job site. Maybe you just use what's on the truck opposed to going to get the right material for the job. So, but I'd see that doesn't pay off in the end, right? They might have to go back to that job site because the customer called them out on it. So I just started to pick up those small details. Being from a small town, I mean, physical labor, getting out there was something I was very well aware of because that was just the majority of the jobs around there. And I saw that there was a growing opportunity in those areas because even at that time, kind of early 2000s, you could start to see people kind of drifting away from that. That college was the only route. That's the only option that you have. You have to do that. But then if you started to add up, okay, what's a student loan? Okay, now you got all these student loans. Okay, how much are you making getting out of college compared to what that concrete worker or electrician or plumber would make? I mean, you do some simple math and you see that doesn't pencil out very well.
I'm a plumber and that math doesn't add up for me.
Yeah.
So You started in concrete. Did you do any other trades along the way, or what did you do during the summers of high school or between high school and college and then the summers of college?
Concrete was my real one trade. So I didn't work with a plumber or electrician. Definitely had an appreciation of the electrical side just from my dad being a lineman. And we grew up on a farm. So we cash rented out our land. So we didn't have necessarily combines and tractors, but we had horses. And I mean, pretty much anything that needed to get done on the farm, we were going to do it. So kind of that's where the do-it-yourself type of thing, taking on those projects, not being really scared of any one project. And my mom and dad literally physically built our house in 1985. So I don't know if they called in any professionals at all for that, other than calling the family over to hang the rafters, right, when you need a few more hands. Without knowing it, getting your hands dirty, getting after it was just kind of like ingrained into me at a very early age. Concrete was the only actual trade that I went into, but that was appreciation for that, understanding of that, and kind of getting after it was something that was ingrained in me very early on.
I love that. You said your mom and dad built y'all's house from the ground up.
Right. I thought that's just what you did.
That's the way life is supposed to be, right?
Yeah,
you go out, you buy land.
Yeah.
Come on, honey, let's build a house. It's time to go to work.
Yep.
So they led you into the DIY because you learned how to do everything. So tell everybody who you are and what you do now. Right. And why you're so daggum good at it.
My name's Scott Dixon. I have a YouTube channel and a few other, Facebook page and website called Everyday Home Repairs. And that's really what it is. It's trying to help homeowners save time and money by taking on projects around their own house. Been doing that since December 17th of 2017. So a little over 5 years now. And it really just started off as I've kind of built up rental properties over time. So I was a corporate guy, went to college for engineering, worked at Caterpillar for about 12 years, designing and testing equipment. Really cool job, a fantastic job. I spent a ton of time on motor graders and wheel loaders and bulldozers. I worked at test facilities in Illinois, which is 4,000 acres of a sandbox with yellow iron as far as the eye can see.
That is so cool.
Oh, it was. I mean, I was an equipment nerd and all into it. But I always had, through that career, I always had a side hustle. So during that career, it was real estate. So I bought a duplex, lived in one side, rented the other. I was the owner, I was the manager, I was the handyman, all the way down the line. So started to learn, build my own skill set, build my tool set up, literally, figuratively, and the physical tools. And then just kind of getting into those projects. And one day, for whatever reason, right, trying to trace it back, I documented securing a loose toilet paper holder on a wall. I'm like, I'm going to shoot a video of this and we'll start up a little YouTube channel. And that started off as in that original duplex that I bought, and it was between two tenants fixing some stuff up, as I did. And 347 long form videos later in 5 years and a ton of hard work and a little bit of luck sprinkled in there. We're almost to 700 subscribers on 700,000 subscribers on YouTube, and put out about 1 to 2 videos per week, and really enjoying it. I really enjoy it.
I love that. I love the way you say, 700 subscribers, 700,000 subscribers. I remember the first time I went to Vid Summit. Mm-hmm. And I'm at the meet and greet, the opening night. And back then I was wearing my Texas Green plumbing shirts. I've always been branded. I love that. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I'm wearing my Texas Green plumbing shirt out there. And this couple comes up to me and we're standing there talking. They look down and see my shirt and say, "Oh my God, a plumber. That's amazing. How many subs do you have?" I said, 117. He said, "Wow, 117,000 subs for a plumber. That's a lot." I said, no, I've got 117 subscribers.
Maybe 118 now.
Yeah, maybe 118 now. And because I had looked earlier that day, and it was funny because now, we stood there and talked for a while. Now, every time I see them at a conference, it's that they come up. They've got one of the biggest channels out there. It's the Snow Dogs, and it's about their Huskies and this and that. And it's so cool. The community, because most of us started what we started to help other people. And, I like that you talked about, I just made a deal documenting how to fix this project, but you knew what YouTube was already.
Mm-hmm.
See, when I found out what YouTube was, I was sitting at a conference trying to make a phone ring for a plumbing company. And I found out YouTube is this big, massive search engine that no tradespeople know anything about or doing anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And we got started about the same time. You got started probably 6 months before I did. So very interesting. I love that. What projects have you had that you looked at it and thought, man, I can't document this because I'm going to do something wrong, or it's going to be too hard to do, or something like that? Tell me about one of your biggest projects or projects like that.
Well, I mean, in general, having rental properties, you always had things going wrong. So from the outside looking in, you'd be like, oh, you just document the things you need to fix at the rental properties. And I actually barely ever do that because that's a tenant. You're going to go into their home. The washer's not working. There's a leak under the kitchen sink base. So I don't want to really delay that out for them. I don't want to bring in my tripods and my lights. And very often that is not actually the case. That's just something I'm getting done and building my own skill set, right? So building up my own knowledge over time. In terms of like breadth of projects and not documenting that because I didn't have the skill set, I wasn't comfortable. There's not too much. I take on most things. Getting into solar even now, so I'm looking at like a DIY pergola in the backyard with solar panels, going to an inverter. So I like to learn. I dive in. I try to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of my audience. I do not try to necessarily be the pro. So I do like to open up. Hey guys, this is my experience. This is the story that I'm going through. But in your area, especially when it comes to code, if you're taking on these projects, you have to take on that responsibility. You have to understand your local, inspectors. You have to understand what code is valid in your area, especially in electrical. And in Illinois, it goes down to the municipality. It's not even statewide for 2014 or 2017 NEC. So you really have to take on that responsibility if you're going to take on those DIY projects that are a little more meaty, electrical, plumbing, adding things to your home. There's not too much that we don't take on the channel, but we also try to lead with that education of this is that what I'm doing here. It's not your home. I don't live in Texas or live in Oregon or live in wherever you're watching. So this is going to get you started, but this isn't everything you need to know to tackle these projects. Especially electrical, do it right. Mm-hmm. But on plumbing, you create cross connections. You can make people sick and even kill people. Mm-hmm. In Texas, you're allowed as a homeowner, as long as it's your homestead and you've got it registered that way, you're allowed to do anything plumbing. And you can literally fix any plumbing at your house. You can fix it, repair it, you can replace it. You can do anything there. And I have people reach out to me and they're like, well, what about gas? Well, gas is part of the plumbing system. Yeah. And at least in Texas it is. Now, not everywhere. There are some states that plumbers don't touch gas and the gas company does. That they do all that, which I think is great for them because they've got a lot of work there for the customer now. Right. But at the end of the day, you got to look back and say, look, mom and dad built a freaking house. Yeah. And it's got to be hard to say there's anything you'd be afraid to try. Right. And remember that house went up in 1985 and the house was like built into a hillside. So you could literally walk on the back of the roof so it kept heat in. It was pretty efficient. It had a bunch of windows on the southern facing side. So it was actually what's called passive solar. So in the winter, it'd really heat up in Illinois, which could be a pretty cold day. It had a geothermal system on it for and did they install that too? No, so that was okay. I was going to say, wait a minute, man, that's something I want to learn to do. Yeah, right. So that was one of the things they needed definitely to call somebody in on. But yeah, they took it on septic system, well, so bringing in the well driller, right, actually getting that hole in the ground. But yeah, pretty much like you said, anything. But when it comes to gas, you've got to know your skill set. There are obviously limitations to that. For me, I don't need any code or guidelines to tell me the safety of my family. Yeah. Is paramount. Or another family if you're working on a rental. Is paramount, right? So yeah, I do respect that. I do think there are boundaries and you need to call in pros. If you're even questioning, is this the right way to seal up this pipe? Is this the right type of pipe to bring in, whether it's gas? Yeah, I think there are limitations there.
it's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of handymen are like, look, I'll work on anything. And I'm not saying you're a handyman, but people that advertise handyman work, they're like, look, I can work on anything.
Right.
It's like, be careful. The law says you can't,
mm-hmm.
and you can put people's lives in danger. So I do. I love that. Have you ever thought about calling mom to get her to come help you work on anything or anything like that?
Yeah, mom and dad, they can both get after it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think the handyman type of approach and calling in the professionals, what we're doing on the channel, we talk about DIY all the time. I have, shirts that say sweat equity, right? Put that sweat in and build the equity that you have in your own home to help you financially too, right? To help you get a good financial foundation. But you do need to, call in those pros when it's necessary. And you're going to be a more educated homeowner, which is just going to make that experience much better from both sides. You know what you're asking for. You're very clear with what you're asking for to the professional. Because I see that's where a lot of the hangups come in, right? A lot of people, whether it's a remodel project or whatever it is, they call in maybe a GC or they call in somebody and they think the GC's an architect and a designer and
installer, engineer, everything.
And they're like, I don't pick your paint colors,
yes.
So on the channel, yes, DIY is our focus, but it's really also just opening the eyes of homeowners, giving them a basis of, if you wanted to expand your electrical panel, what would that project look like? What are some of the things that you need to take into consideration? So when they do actually call in the pro, the electrician, licensed electrician in the area, they know what they're asking for and can get what they actually want at the end of the day.
I just bought a piece of property. Talked about that the other day. Electrical is the one thing I don't do. I've just, I tell people when I thought about getting in the trades, luckily I got into plumbing because of a friend of mine. I would have hated electrical because I hate getting shocked.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'd have been like, first time I got shocked, I'd been like, that's it.
Just wakes you up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going home. Plumbing doesn't bother me. Getting wet, I love the water, so maybe that's why it is. But you talked about side hustles, and to me, tradespeople, I wish that I could get them to understand money. Mm-hmm. And it's not just make more money, because unfortunately, when we do that, we spend more money. You mentioned The Richest Man in Babylon. Mm-hmm. I love that book. Yep. Once I read that, I thought, why didn't my parents teach me this? My parents didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So my parents didn't understand money. So I didn't understand it. I knew if somebody gave me $5, I tried to spend $6. And that's the way I was raised. It's like, man, I got it. Let's go. It just burned a hole in my pocket. But I like what you said, because I've mentioned this to kids before. When it's time to buy a house, don't buy a $500,000 house that your parents couldn't even afford. And I know people that have done that. Mm-hmm. And then they struggle every month to make that house payment because it's just looming over them. I've told them, buy a smaller house, go in immediately and fix up like the master bedroom and kitchen, the 2 rooms that you're probably going to spend time in. Fix them up first. You could do that in a month or 2. And then take your time fixing up the rest of the house and then flip it. And most tradespeople are mechanically inclined. How does real estate investment work for you? How did you get started, and how did you grow it into what all you're doing today?
Yeah, and I really love this topic, because I think with a few different tweaks to your mindset, man, you can make all the difference in the world in terms of your financial security and setting not only your immediate family, but also being a pillar of strength for your extended family, your community. If we're all making $5 and spending $6, that's not what built America, right?
No, it's not.
We need to be a little bit more fiscally responsible.
No, what built America is borrowing $5 to go spend it and then wondering how you're going to pay it back.
Yeah.
And which we're trying not to do these days.
Right. And failing in some areas. I think.
Bet.
Yeah. I always say, what's your unfair advantage? So if you want to get into real estate investing, you should be able to quickly point to an area where you think you have some advantage. So one area would be getting great deals. Maybe for whatever reason, you have a pipeline of off-market deals where not everybody else is seeing that 3.2 ranch, and you're able to get that on 80 cents on the dollar, 70 cents on the dollar. Okay, awesome. You bought right. So at the closing table, when you're getting those keys, you already have profit built in. So that is one advantage. Maybe you're a real estate agent, maybe you're sending out marketing, whatever that is. even a cleaning company. So some cleaning companies get called in for a hoarder house, and a cleaning company could say, hey, we can either clean that out for $15,000 or I can take that off your hands for $65,000. And then once that thing's cleaned out, it's worth 100, 110.
You bet.
So you got to kind of, okay, so can you buy right, which is extremely important, because you can do all the work you want to a house, but if you overpay for a house out of the gates, you're doing it kind of for nothing, because you're not going to have that profit at the end of the day. Now, when it comes to the trades, more commonly, you have the skill set. You got the truck, you got the trailer, you have the knowledge, you have the tools, you got a bunch of buddies that are in the other trades. So if you're not using that skill set and network to buy that house that's beat up, needs a new roof, needs completely replumbed, has a fuse box, and now it needs a circuit breaker panel. If you're not leveraging that in your home, if you're just going out and buying a 500 used to be crazy. Now it's 6, 7, 8.
Oh yeah.
I was looking at some place in California. The average home price was $1.9 million.
Is that nuts?
It's absolutely insane. So if you're playing the keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with whoever, you're going to be in that same position as all them. So I've taken that approach. Real estate was always a forced savings account for myself. I had a path to off-market deals, doing marketing and kind of networking with real estate agents. I had some skill set and I wasn't afraid to get my hands dirty. So especially there's those first kind of handful of properties that I bought, I was extremely active on that and doing most of the work myself. And then it compounds. So, the wonder of the world of compounding, right? Mm-hmm. So if you do a live-in flip, which I think is a fantastic opportunity for any tradesman, is do a live-in flip. You live in that flip. You redo the basement. You move your bedroom down to the basement.
We don't have basements here in Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Get off
that.
Sorry. No, everybody listens. I know. That's just the first thing jumped into my mind. I love that idea, though. I wish I had one.
So live in the one room, right? Redo the other. You're going to have drywall dust all over everything all the time. That's just a fact,
part of life.
Yeah, fact of the matter. But if you live in that property, you bought it correctly, you put a lot of the sweat equity into it, so you saved on that, and then you're ready to sell it. If you've lived in that house 2 out of the last 5 years, all those gains, there's no tax on those gains. So now that $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 profit you can take into the next house. And if you're usually in a situation where you're a little younger, still maybe haven't started the family yet, why aren't you doing what's called house hacking, which is you are the person that buys the house, the 4-bedroom house, and rent out those other 3 bedrooms to your other buddies that are going to be over there all the time anyway. Why don't you rent those rooms out? They pay for your mortgage, you improve the property. So just these kind of small mindset shifts make all the difference in the end in terms of your retirement and what you've built up.
Rent it out to tradespeople. So you're a plumber.
Yeah, get an
rent it out to an electrician, an HVAC tech, and a roofer. Say, hey guys, look, part of your rent is we're going to fix this thing up. I'm going to get you to help me change the panel out. I'm going to get you to help me change the roof. And we're all going to learn. How cool would that be? Because now after a year, the HVAC guy knows about plumbing, electrical, and roofing. Everybody knows about the other trade. Maybe not enough to say, look, I'm licensed at it. But now you can walk into the system and say, yeah, you know what, I can change that ductwork out, or I can change those grills out.
Yeah, and the market's hot right now, so it's really hard to get, and has been for 2-3 years, really hard to get a deal on a house. They are still out there. But let's say the market cools off a little bit, and this is your first time doing it. Man, those late 80s, early 90s homes, they don't look so good. They got the golden oak cabinets. The paint scheme's a little dated. The flooring is a little worn out. That is a pretty easy project to take on, where you're not having to really dig into the bones. Not that you can't do that, but there's also a lot of material costs once you start going down those paths. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to dive into, like I've done a 1904 farmhouse. It's called a 4-square, which you had 4 bedrooms up top and you had your living space down below. Man, that was my 3rd property I took on. Holy crap. Plaster is the worst stuff to bash out of a house.
Oh, God, yeah.
I took out 5 20-yard dumpsters of plaster myself. And half of that was from a second story where you had to go down the stairs and go out and back to throw it into the dumpster. Jeez. But you look back and you learn so much, and I'm just selling that property now. I bought that property fairly at a pretty good price, but I put a ton of time and effort into it. Where honestly, I didn't have $50,000 of profit into that property right when I finished it. But I've owned that property for about 8 years now. My tenants have helped pay down the mortgage over time. So now I'm looking to sell that property. I have a signed contract on it. We're trying to get to the closing table in just a couple of days. And I'll walk away from the closing table with probably about $120,000 check. So that one was just a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears, literally, in that property, holding it for a long enough period of time
to let the value rise,
letting the renters pay down your mortgage. So you keep building up your principals coming down. That value hopefully is going up a little bit. There was no magic there. There was absolutely no magic on the property.
It's just smart investment.
And staying in for the long run. If you're going to do it, just like anything, you're not doing it for a year or 2 years. You got to give it a go. You got to give it a chance and let the time, basically time in real estate corrects all, right? So even if you don't buy great, if you hold that property for 20 years,
enough, absolutely,
it's probably going to pay off and you're going to look like a genius, amongst your friends when it was just you had the patience and the vision to get that early on.
Imagine too, you get enough renters to pretty much cover the mortgage. Now you can invest your money into the materials to do what needs to be done. It's your house. You should buy the materials.
Yep.
But then if you can, like you said, keep them there long enough that the principal goes down, the value goes up, but now you're not paying for anything. Once you rehab everything, start putting that money up and you can literally start looking at your next house. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe you don't turn and sell this one. You keep renting it out. It's paying for itself.
For sure.
It's doing that. And real estate's the one thing to invest in. Look, God's not making no more new dirt. We've got what we've got.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different concepts that they can go, a few different resources. One, like biggerpockets.com, largest forum where new landlords, new investors are just chatting, asking questions. And then you have some older landlords that have done it for a long time, getting direct advice from that. They have all sorts of podcasts. They have all sorts of YouTube videos where if you're driving around to service calls or you're spending a lot of time in the truck, probably the best thing I've done over the last 15 years is, I don't spend 10 minutes in my truck without putting on some form of education.
You and me both. You saw me earlier trying to jack my truck to
I could tell you're like, no, I need that.
I know. It's like, man, I need my stuff. Yeah. Yes.
It's those small steps every day that aren't going to make a difference for tomorrow. But if you do that every day for multiple years, like undoubtedly you're going to get ahead. Somebody
introduced me to Jim Rohn.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started listening to him a little bit in the mornings. And I remember listening one day, and I still remember what he talked about. He said, I used to get up every morning and watch the news. He said, you're putting all this bad stuff in your head, crime, rape, murder, robbery, drugs, the economy's going down, unemployment's going up. He said, and you put all this bad stuff in your head and then you go into the office and you try to get good stuff out of it. He said, it's like baking a cake with concrete mix. Mm-hmm. Once you put that concrete mix in there, you're not getting anything good out of it.
Yep.
But my life completely changed when I did start listening to, because I used to listen to country music every morning on the way in. Used to get up, turn on the news, and I still do that every now and then.
Yep.
But listen to country music on the way in. You play a country song backwards, you get your job back, get your kids back, you get your wife back, you get your money back. And, the thought is you're putting all this in your head, whether you realize it or not. Then you get into work and it's like, But when I listen to, and I still listen to Jim Rohn, Alex Hormozi, listen to Ed Mylett, listen to so many different people.
And no excuses now.
Yeah, there's none.
So many good people out there. You just pick your 3 to 5 horsemen and you just follow them into battle. And you can learn so much. I think we overlook the sheer value, right? And that's the key. If you want to do side hustles, if you want to do content, it's not what value can I take off the table. It's what value can you lead with. Put that value out there. And the same thing, it will come back. If you do that for long enough, if you lead with value on pretty much anything in your life, it will come back. And these guys and gals online that are where you want to go
have done that.
And many steps ahead,
You bet. Way
are
ahead.
doing that daily. I mean, they're putting the good stuff out there.
After you start learning like that, then I started reaching out to coaches, mentors. I've worked under Brendan Burchard.
Mm-hmm.
God, the list goes on forever. Pete Vargas, Daryl Eves, Jeremy Vest, Sean Cannell, so many different people that I've learned from. And the one big thing I remember taking from Brendan Burchard, and it's probably the one that just hit me the hardest, is, people asking, well, if I do my courses or if I do this little video, if I do this, what all value do I give them? What all do I bring? He said, give them the best you got.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And everybody's like, well, man, that's what I want to sell.
You're not going to hold. Yeah, you're not going to.
Yeah, I want to hold that back. And it's like, if you're holding back the best and you're only giving your half game, people are like, what's the value in that?
Yeah.
You give them your best, and they're like, dude, if he gave this away, I've got to sign up because whatever he's selling has got to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at, how do I improve that? How do I do that better? How do I go deeper on it? I love that. So when it comes to you making videos, what are you asked most for? What videos, because you've got a great community,
Mm-hmm.
you communicate well with them. What are you asked most for? How do you bring the most value?
So I'm in a unique position, right? So I'm educating myself along with these different trades. I'm really getting into electrical and plumbing and exterior, sealing gaps in concrete somehow. Like, I can gather millions of views on. I think the thing that is unique about everyday home repairs is I can put myself in their shoes because I am a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
I am learning. I do have limited tools. I try not to buy the latest and greatest in the entire fleet of Makita power tools, because if I'm using, this crimper, this, specialty tool from Milwaukee or DeWalt, the chance of my audience having that, I'm at a different level. So I try to keep it on their level. So I think the request from them is just keep it on our level, right? I want to build up my tool set. Maybe you can show me option A and option B, but try to do it with option A, the lower cost
Mm-hmm.
option. So that's kind of the frame that we've been setting it. And then we let the data show us the way, right? We see what reacts well with our audience. We try to put multiple different videos out there to get a few different samples. And so far, so good. But I think we're just getting started. I mean, I think personally, as an industry, I think there's a lot more that we can bring to homeowners, from the creator, the Instagram, YouTuber, to the homeowner, and make that more efficient. Can I show you how to build that shed yourself or give you a few options? And then can I give you a path to easily get the materials you need dropped off? Because you have a minivan, you don't have a 1-ton Super
You
Duty.
bet.
So we're starting to think through that. I know, we're even talking about some of that stuff, is how do we just make the overall process easier on everyone? Again, leading with value.
Mm-hmm.
And then undoubtedly there's some value that comes back.
You're teaching people to solve a pain point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don't get me wrong. The solar pergola is great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not at home staying awake at night thinking, okay, how do I get that done?
For sure.
But when I pull into the driveway and there's a crack 3 inches wide and my daughter's crying because she lost her jacks down it, now I've got pain. I'm like, how do I fix that? I'm not a concrete guy.
Yep.
I don't have, all these tools and means and stuff like that. So you're solving a pain point. You're solving a problem.
Yep.
And that's what I like. The videos that have done well for me are, showing plumbing hacks that either work or don't work. But also, I think my second most popular video, how to stop a toilet that's running.
Yep.
And
100%.
a lot of people are like, I don't have $300-400 to pay a plumber to come change a flapper,
Mm-hmm.
a fill valve, a flush valve, anything at all like that. And my thing is, look, I can show you how to do that pretty easy. And then I have plumbers reach out to me. Dude, I cannot believe you're taking money out of our pockets. And I'm like, well, in Texas, it's legal for Scott to work on his own home. If he's got it registered as his homestead,
Yeah.
he's still got to call and get a permit. He's still got to get it inspected just like I do. If Scott's going to do it, why don't I teach him the right way?
Mm-hmm.
Now become his trusted advisor. Now, if he runs into a problem that he can't fix, who's he going to want to call? Hey,
Yeah.
Roger, look, man, I saw you do a video on
Yeah.
this. I don't think that I can do that. I don't have leak detection equipment. How can I do it?
Yeah, I get that similar feedback. For one, I mean, I've been surprised. I don't know if you've been surprised. I've been surprised on how positive people actually are on Facebook. Or sorry, YouTube. Facebook's a little...
And I get them on YouTube too. I get people calling, tell me I'm a hack. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You're not even a licensed plumber. I'd fire you.
Yeah.
It's like
most
dude.
people... So, yeah, obviously you get the everybody grumpy about
the
everything,
1%ers.
no matter
You bet.
what.
You bet.
But most people really good, and I always like kind of kill them with kindness, go back. And that, like, even the people coming in hot, that like neutralizes 9 out of 10. You're like, oh man, I was just giving you crap.
Uh-huh.
But I think I'm a abundance mindset
Mhm.
guy. So I don't even see that scarcity mindset.
Oh, no, me either.
And there's no chance in just about any market in the United States, if you're a good plumber, electrician, there's no shortage of work.
Seth Godin's got a book, The Dip.
Mhm.
And he talks in the beginning, if you're not trying to be the very best, why not? The best get paid more. The best get better job opportunities. And I think that that's why once I got into the trades, once I decided, look, I need to be the best, because I joined the union after I'd been in the plumbing field for 17 years.
Mhm.
When I joined, they're like, you're a rat. You don't know what you're doing.
Mhm.
You haven't learned anything. You're a shade tree plumber. Just everything in the world. But I knew that I had learned from some really good plumbers. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to outperform them every day. Do it better, do it straighter, do it plumber.
Yep.
True, straight, and square on everything. Luckily, the first plumbers that I worked for taught me, turn the letters the same direction. When you're putting on no hub bands, your little hex head goes in the same spot, facing the same direction. And man, that's the way I did.
Yep.
But I also knew if they put me and you on the floor together, my goal was to outwork you every day.
Mhm.
Put more work in, do it better, have a cleaner work area. I mean, I looked at every little detail, overanalyze it.
Mhm.
What can I do better? What can I do that if the foreman walks up, he's going to see a difference in my work and your work?
Yep.
At the end of the day, we're putting in plumbing.
Yep.
What can I do to be different? And that's what I try to teach people to say. So I like the way you said that. If you're a good plumber, a good electrician, a good HVAC tech, you can get a job anywhere. Have you worked around any bad ones or seen bad ones?
Yeah, I think it's the shortcuts, right? The shortcuts, not doing what you say, saying what you do. Sometimes these projects become complex, right? We get behind that drywall. We think it's going to be, actually now, after you get so much experience, you just expect that there's going to be quite a few hiccups. And that's why you pride yourself on what you have on your truck, so you can get out of all those different situations, hopefully without going down to the supply house. So that's also where I'm at now, kind of building out my, pack out kits and stuff to kind of get out of a lot of these different situations. So the bad ones usually are just that when they are faced with that challenge and they don't have those parts, are they thinking through, okay, how can I build out a system so the next time I do have that? So they go through their entire career not having the part.
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Or
not
having the
building,
tool.
Yeah, they're not building that skill set. Outworking, right? People relate that to the daily task that you are grinding. You're taking shorter lunches. You're hustling around, and I think that is part of it. But I would also challenge that it's a longevity game, right? Can you do that for one day? Can you do that for 1 week? Can you do that 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years? So I think the opportunity is not only in the day, but I think it's almost more so in the longevity. Are you taking care of yourself, right? What are you eating when you get back home? What are you drinking when you get back home? So, whether you have mental clarity, right? You're able to think through these things. You feel good about the day. You're kind of taking care of all those things. Again, not a mistake, right? Are you working out a little bit? And I understand when you're in the trade, the last thing you want to do usually is go home and exercise. And you don't need to if you do it right, and if your diet's somewhat on point, and if you start to. So those are the things that I'm even looking through now from a content perspective and a real estate investing perspective, is how do I show up my best self every day, not just one day, but every day, because that is compounding.
It can start a little just drinking water. Yep. How much water are you drinking?
Yep.
And most of us don't even Most tradespeople don't even they go drink a water when they want to take a break. I'm going to slow down for a moment. I'm going to go get a drink of water. They don't drink water on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best things you can do for your body.
Yeah.
You talked about solar a while ago. And I try to teach tradespeople to have a specialty. If you're a plumber, you need to know how to do slab leaks, leak detection, stuff like that. You need to understand whole house water filtration systems.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing good in our water. We there's so many chemicals in there that it's killing us. We don't even know it, but really we know it. We just don't want to admit it. If you're an electrician, to me, you should understand solar, inverters, wind turbines, generators, anything that most other companies don't do that separates you, set yourself apart from everybody else out there. HVAC tech, indoor air quality, smart homes. I can grab my phone and turn off my AC at the house. I can check the temperature. I know if there's a problem. I can turn off the temperature upstairs or downstairs, whatever I need to do. So smart homes and HVAC, indoor air quality systems, to me, are huge. You're getting into solar and you're not even an electrician. How did you get into solar? And what do you think the benefits are of it? Because this land I just bought, I'm wanting to put solar on.
Right.
I've got this idea. I'm a lead AP, leadership in energy and environmental design, accredited professional. It's an exam or a test for new home. It used to be just big commercial buildings, but it's building green, building efficient, building sustainability into the buildings. Solar is something I've always been interested in. I've got an idea in my head of building a house like your parents. It's on well water.
Yep.
It's on solar power.
Resilient. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's off the grid. I don't need to be plugged into anything.
Yep.
So I've got that idea, and that is something that I want to do. What got you into solar?
Yeah, a few things. So just coming from kind of technology and part of Caterpillar, I was taking data and plugging into the computers on the machines and stuff. So solar has a lot of data collection, monitoring systems. So I just like that side of it. Two, we're in part of the what's called a cost curve for solar. That 10 years ago, the solar installation for 10 kilowatts, which would be a size of a solar system that would offset most of the U.S. households' monthly energy consumption. That thing might have cost $70,000, and now we're down to $30,000, $25,000. So we're getting to a point where the hardware and labor to install it is starting to make a lot more sense.
It's more affordable. So it's
much
more available.
Yeah. And your energy costs going up, right? So you have this thing that can create energy, your own energy coming down, and energy costs coming up, especially in Texas, right? We got some adjustments coming from the utilities in Texas.
You bet.
Kind of some carryover from the deep freeze that you guys got. So we're getting at a good point where, okay, this is starting to make a whole lot of sense. And it's confusing. So it's confusing to a lot of homeowners. Kilowatts.
Why do you think it's confusing?
Kilowatts, kilowatt hours, string inverters, micro inverters, efficiency of panels,
okay, you've just confused
parallel, all these terms. And that's what the door knocking salesman's going to kind of go over with you. And, your energy costs are going to compound like 8%. So I pathed out this cost curve for you. You're just like,
there's an old
what
saying,
are you talking about?
If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with BS, and that's bull sewage, just in case anybody was wondering, I'm not talking bad. But that's what it is. Come in and explain it to them in terms they don't know. Just let them know, look, this is something you need.
Yeah.
You're kind of making it pretty simple.
So that's the whole thing. Right. So education, pretty transparent. Now we will have people that can help them actually get panels on their home. That is something, again, that efficient process. How can we take out a few of these pieces that maybe aren't value add from a homeowner, getting energy producing hardware on their home, and doing that at the lowest cost, but also quality. There's a cost quality here where you want to make sure you're not going with the cheapest hardware because it might not last you and you might not get that return. But then the education side is not just in the hardware, it's also in the incentives. So in the state of Illinois where I'm at, we have a federal incentive. So there's a 30% tax credit you can get the next year assuming you're paying an income tax, you can get as much as maybe $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 off back in your taxes. There's state incentives in Illinois. So again, you might get another check offsetting that. So right away, about 60% of that install cost within 1 year, you'll get back. But a lot of the companies out there, a lot of the door knockers, a lot of the big boys, they push the zero down, the easy path, right? Oh, right. You're not going to have to pay anything.
Won't cost you anything today.
And there are a ton of terrible things that you can do where you sign a lease or what's called a power purchasing agreement. They're putting hardware in your home. Mm-hmm. But then if you want to sell that house in 2 years, you might have a huge issue. That now all of a sudden the thing that's stopping you selling your house
is all this electrical
and
equipment
you're 48 hours away from the closing table. And then all of a sudden what's called the underwriter says, hey, we got this lien against a house from Sunrun or from some solar company. We got to figure that out. And this is like, I have a friend that is going through this right now. They were within 48 hours of the closing table. He didn't even have one of these leases. He had a loan and he was trying to transfer that loan. And the underwriter said, hey, we got to go through this loan transfer process. Okay. How long does that take? Because we're closing 2 days, 60 days.
Yep.
So it just snowballed for there. So then now the person who's buying their house says, can I move in early?
Yeah.
So now they're letting her move in early before the closing table. So now you have somebody in your house before they actually own your house. All sorts of bad things can happen in that scenario.
Yes.
So one, what is solar? What's some of the hardware you should get? But two, how do you pay for these things? And what's a better like long-term solution? When do you think you'll get your money back from all those bill savings, right? Monthly bill savings that you're going to get. So just education. We're leading with education, and I'm sure many other things will blossom from that. But again, lead with value, lead with education, and it's scratching my own itch. I'm getting solar on my home here.
And you're learning about it too.
Yeah, so I don't want to be too many steps ahead. I document the full process. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? And then put that out as content so others can like learn from that.
See, and I love that. And I love the way you think, because I'm already looking at this property like, okay, I need water filtration systems. Which is great. It's for me and you. There's a video. We're going to dig up the ground. We're going to bury it. We're going to run electrical lines out. We're going to do that, or we're going to dig up the ground, reroute the lines around to where we want to put the system inside the house. And I love that, because I'm always thinking solar. I'm always thinking indoor air quality. I'm always thinking wind turbines. I'm talking water filtration. Luckily, there's no leak, so I don't have to worry about the leak detection part. But if you owned a plumbing, electrical, or HVAC companies, don't these ideas sound like that would be a great way to add revenue to your bottom line?
Absolutely. Like a whole system, right? You can kind of sell a whole system. And that's where we are heading. I do think 5 to 10 years, gas furnaces in my area are the way you do it. Heat pumps, we get a little...
Wait, you said they're the way you do it, that y'all are going to gas.
No, we are gas now. I think we're going to electric heat pumps in the future, led by, believe it or not, Tesla and the way they do heat pumps in their cars. There's a much more efficient way to both heat and cool your home that will be coming down to HVAC systems in your home. And then with the electrical generation equipment of your solar panels costs coming down, right? I think there's a break-even point here pretty soon where an all-electric home, and we already obviously have communities everywhere that are all electric, especially in the rental game. I think that's more and more common. So you could be the electrician, you could be the solar installer, you could be the HVAC system, right? That plugs right into that. And more so, some of these systems, especially the mini split systems, they run directly off DC opposed to AC. So you can actually not convert your power, which has an efficiency loss. So there's just a lot of neat things that are coming that a kind of under one roof outfit might be able to provide for that homeowner, kind of that whole system.
Where that's going to be hard, but it could be done because we've got a lot of these big companies today that are multi-infinity, which to me, man, if I was a multi-infinity company, I'd be looking at every one of those. Mm-hmm. What could I do that just literally would separate me from everybody else out there? Because nobody's doing that. There's a house out by me that I drive by that has a big wind turbine. Every time I drive by, I'm like, that dude's just spending money.
Yeah.
And, the same way whenever my next door neighbors just installed solar panels and we live in an HOA. So like they had to get my permission. It's like, is it okay if we install solar panels? I'm like, oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. That's something I've wanted to do. So I do. I want to learn more about that.
And there's a lot of money to be had in solar in terms of all those incentives. We didn't even talk about the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, has grants. So in Illinois, we're looking at this on some of our commercial properties. I mean, it's no brainer. Like when you stack up a grant and your tax credits and your producing what are called SRECs in Illinois, you add that all up and all of a sudden, literally $1 million system could come down to 300, 200. And what you're offsetting in terms of your monthly bill, within 4 years, you might pay that all off. So in the savings that you got with your monthly bill in a small amount of time because of all these incentives. So there's a lot of things out there, but it's very confusing, right? There's all these different programs. Every state's different. Oh, the House of this state legislature just passed a bill and now that's active and now it's 32%. It's confusing stuff. So we're trying to break that down a little bit. That's what we'll be focusing on, is kind of bringing transparency. And because all that money is up for grabs, it brings in some questionable players also. So solar is one of those that probably at the top of the scammy, you just don't feel right. You're like,
from the sales companies.
Yeah. You're like, what's going on here? And it's too bad because, most homeowners in Illinois get pushed off, and another California obviously is the dominant solar market. Texas is a great solar market. Florida is a great solar market, and many other states. But you see those ads and they just look scammy. You're like, this is not going to work. So you get some interesting comments, right? So if you want to see some comment section, go do some solar content. You'll get some interesting comments, and I get it, but that's also what we're trying to is bring the education, keep the scammy stuff over to others, but just educate myself and then pass that knowledge on.
I'm sitting here thinking you could literally do 50 solar state videos, solar in Texas, pros and cons, boom.
2022, 2023, 2024.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
changing.
Make a video a week.
Yep.
52 weeks out of the year, take 2 weeks vacation, come back next year, do it again, because that video is now 12 months old. And, things change.
And you need it.
Because the credits change. Absolutely.
Dramatically different state to state. Dramatically different. So
if you do these videos now, you got to talk about a percentage fee here.
I got you.
I'm telling you that I do. I love this idea because this to me, and look, tradespeople, I think we're mechanically inclined and we have the mindset we can do anything. I've built some of the biggest buildings in Dallas. Being part of it. I've built the biggest water park in Dallas, an indoor water park.
Yeah.
And I loved getting.
Did you guys get a test on the slides or something? A little early access.
Man, I left that job and went to another one before that. But
you got to turn them on.
Squirt finished it up, and he got to go out there for opening weekend.
Yes, yeah.
And man, they just got to play on all the rides, so it's cool. And he loved it so much, he still goes back every now and then. Scott, tell everybody where they can find you on all your social platforms. Where are you at, and where can they get what type of information from you?
Yeah. So Everyday Home Repairs is our biggest by far. So that's going to be YouTube, mostly long form from 5 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the project.
So you've made hour and a half videos.
Yeah. Yep. That was a full DIY bathroom remodel. So I tried to take the fiberglass surround out, replumb a little bit, put the new Delta 400 series in, tearing out old subfloor, putting the new subfloor in, doing custom vanity, light, exhaust fan where the old light was. Yeah, it's a classic late 80s, early 90s. Let's get this baby updated. Can we do it ourselves type of video? So I have some of those, and I want to do more of those in the future because I think it really walks people through almost at the pace that they're going. They can watch 5 to 7 minutes, do that. Watch the next 7 minutes, do that. So that's our biggest by far. Everydayhomerepairs.com is where we do a lot of those articles just in written form. Then we have obviously the Instagram, Facebook. We have a nice following. If you guys have any questions, we have a good community. So we have about 184,000 people in a group, Facebook group, Everyday Home Repairs community there. And then now Everyday Solar. So also putting out Everyday Solar. And we even have like Everyday Home Repairs in Espanol for our friends that speak Spanish.
Look
that are
at
out
you go,
there.
man.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's it. And if anybody, especially in the trades, I truly am passionate about doing it just a little bit different, right? Getting that first home and building in $50,000 of profit and rolling that to another one and then building in $100,000 profit. I think that just completely changes the path of your life and your family's life. It really starts to compound more than you can even imagine if you stay in it for the long game. So if anybody has questions, what's an FHA loan? How do I leverage that on a duplex or triplex? All these details of it. They can DM me on Instagram so Everyday Home Repairs on Instagram. They can DM me. I'll see it and I'd be happy to help them out.
Cool. Are you glad you're not at Caterpillar anymore?
Oh,
and don't get me wrong. I love Caterpillar.
Yeah,
I do. Phenomenal product.
Let's just say, Cat was great to me. Like I said, equipment nerd. I'd go out to Con Expo in Vegas and just for 6 days, I would put on like 20 to 30,000 steps and just nerding out on what's this competitor doing? What's this technology doing? Just taking notes, taking pictures. So I loved it. I was all in on it. But it goes to your saying of like, be the best, right? Like be the best, get into it, get passionate. If you're just punching the time clock,
you're going to get bored.
Yeah, you're going to get bored and you're not going to go to where you want to go or where's possible. But with that said, I'm never going back to corporate. No, I've always been an entrepreneur. They shut down a vending machine in my high school and because somebody vandalized it. So I went to Sam's, and just bought a bunch of candy, put it in a big old duffel bag and started slinging Snickers bars and Skittles. And I just had this big old Italian wad of cash. I don't know if I do that these days, but back then it was all right. They opened the candy machine back up and no one was buying it because I undercut their prices.
Oh, that is hilarious. I love
Until the principal called me in and he shut down the operation because they had a contract with the vending company. So I always had this spark of entrepreneurship. Caterpillar let that spark grow quite a bit. They let me do some interesting things. But man, I love what I'm doing now. I think we're making some impact. I think we're helping a lot of people, having fun with it. And excited for the future.
If you could go back and talk to little Scott the day you're walking out to go to work at that concrete job, the very first day, looking at all the trades that you're involved with, the things that you've learned to get you to where you're at, to get your channel to where you're at. And I love watching what you do. So it's really neat. If you could go back and talk to little Scott that first day, what advice would you give him based on what you know now?
I mean, college isn't the only path, right? I think we're still in the phase of that's kind of the de facto default condition for your uncle, your aunt, your mom, and your dad, the feedback you're giving. A lot of opportunity has opened up in the trades just from a demand perspective. And I look at that and right now I'm not using anything from college, but I do respect, did I mature in college? My ability to talk to people, work with people, get the work done I needed to, discipline. Did that happen in college? Could I do that just through a different path? Plumbing, electrical, HVAC, whatever that is. So I would say that I would open up my eyes to there's more opportunity out there. But I would instill, which I did, I have done fairly well, that there should always be, you're doing something a little bit different. You should not be, definitely not the slowest gazelle, but not even in the mid pack. How do you get out there? How do you lead? I think a lot of that starts with mindset. I think a lot of the mindset starts with health and positive thinking and not turning on the news and having just negative thoughts blasted to you 24/7. Surrounding yourself with a friend group that's also trying to do a little bit of that. They're fun, right? They're fun to hang out with, but they're also trying to kind of get after it, get ahead and grind. So surrounding yourself, college isn't the only path, and also surround yourself with not only people that you love hanging out with and are great friends, but maybe a few that are 1 or 2 steps ahead of you that you can kind of draft behind, I think that's something I still struggle a bit with. I need to do that more. I don't need to be the lead gazelle. I'd like to have a few people that I'm chasing as well. So doing that at an early age, having those role models, those mentors, somebody that you can help and they help you. I think that's probably something that I didn't do great starting off and could have even helped me get further. I think it's a great path.
I love that. I've enjoyed talking to you, yesterday and today both.
Yeah, for sure.
Great information. Man, if y'all have not checked out his channel, go over and check it out and watch and learn how to be the DIY king.
That's right. Thanks,
Cool
Roger.
stuff.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, sir.